intention. So coming into our global intention, think of something you'd like to put out into the world today. Positive thoughts or feeling, anything at all, something that feels good to you. And starting to sense that idea, that feeling, starting at yourself. Beginning to breathe into that idea. Think of it as you inhale. Sense it as you exhale. And then to strengthen that felt sense of the thought, of the intention, start to imagine it as a feeling of light. As though when you think of that intention, you start to glow, you're illuminated. Maybe the light is carried on your breath, coming in and spreading out. And through that light is how we'll start to push that intention outward into the world. So just starting here with a nice full breath, feeling that light and that positive thought in yourself. Another breath, starting to feel it come to the surface of your body and kind of hover around yourself, just sitting there in that light. Another breath, it starts to fill the room where you are, being lit up. And another breath, it fills the whole building where you are. And then really letting it move out from there. The next breath, it can go down your street, out into your neighborhood or the countryside. And then moving into your county, your town, your state. Feeling it come across the region, across the country, across the continent. Just continue to spread that light out. Imagine it moving around the whole world, across the oceans, to all the other continents, to any places you may have been, people that you know. Sending that positivity all the way out there. Surrounding the planet with that light, we'll take a breath to kind of seal it in. Deep breath in and a slow breath out. And then bringing your attention back inward, bring it all the way back to your body. Bring your hands together at your heart and we'll take another breath together. A full breath in. And a slow breath out. And then just a little bit more from seated here, and then we're going to do some work on our back as we get into our hips. But starting here with butterfly legs, you can bring your soles of your feet together, and you can have a loose butterfly, or you can bring your heels in close. But we're just going to start with a few big circles of the upper body. So you're kind of leaning around, leaning back, and just starting to wake up the hips, see where they're at this morning without forcing anything, without pushing too hard in any direction. And of course, at some point, turn it around to get the other way. A few circles coming around. And then as you're ready, finding your way back up through to center. Nice tall posture. A little more active in the legs. Push the feet together, push the feet onto the floor. You might be able to hold your legs somewhere with your hands and feel like you're pulling your spine up while you brace against your legs. And the legs are sort of starting to push downward, so the knees go towards the floor. We'll give it just another deep, full breath. Feel real tall with your inhale. And follow your exhale down into the hips. And then you can help your knees up and bring your body down. So you can lay down on your back. First, just bring yourself to the floor and find your alignment there. Lengthen into your spine, center through your head. You can keep your knees bent, have your feet flat on the floor. This is called constructive rest pose. It's not much, but it is really restorative. Maybe even just feeling your back coming back into alignment, softening into that space. We'll begin some movement from here. So windshield wiper legs to start. You might have your feet a little wider. Arms can go wide as well. Let your knees start to travel side to side. And of course, you can move that with your breath. Feel free to take your inhale up through the middle, the exhale down to one side. And it might feel good to turn your head side to side as well. A little nod left and right. And then you can arrive back through to center. At center, bringing your feet a little closer together and coming into some cat-cow tilts on your back or pelvic tilts. So the tailbone points down. We get a more of a curve of the low back, maybe mid-back, and then going towards a flat back, trying to press the small of your back to the floor flat. Using your inhale to come back to that arch, and the exhale to try to flatten it down. So really long, slow breaths to make the movement long and slow as well. And just getting really familiar with that tilt. You might feel it in different areas depending on where your awareness is and where your body feels the most. So maybe it's a lot in the low back, but it's also really affecting down into that hip space. And what we're going to do is take this movement into a few different postures. So we're really working around the hips and the pelvis in a few different shapes. So the first shape is going to be lifting your right leg up towards the ceiling. And first you might just kind of give it a big stretch, push your heel up. You can go ahead and hold your leg if it's easy to catch your thigh. Maybe a few circles with your toes. Just starting to wake up the hamstrings. And then with that heel pressing up, so your sole of the foot faces the ceiling and it keeps the leg really active, we'll try to do that cat-cow tilt again with this leg straight up. And so when you start to do that, you might not have the same range of motion, but you want to start feeling when the tailbone turns down, you're getting more stretch down the back of the leg. Sometimes that makes your leg want to kind of buckle, but try to keep it fairly straight. So we're just getting into the hamstrings from that upper attachment of the hip by trying to move it. When that whole space is really tight, sometimes this whole thing doesn't even make sense in the body, but we're just trying. So see where it goes. And then you can pause that movement with your leg as straight as you can get it and with your tailbone as pointed down as you can get it. And it might not be very down at all, but just working in that direction. Pausing there, another deep breath. And then we'll take your right ankle to the left knee for figure 4. So you can prop that up. Take your right hand to the right thigh and just give a little guidance to your legs, pushing it a little wider behind, away from you. And then again, that cat-cow tilt. And maybe there's a little more range of motion here if you've got a little more mobility in the hips than the hamstrings. So we're still looking for what that does around that hip space. Maybe you feel that outer edge of your thigh. Maybe it's a little deeper in the hip socket. And then just a little bit further, we're going to try to pick up your legs, bring them towards you. If you can reach for the left thigh with your hands, you could bring your legs towards you or just let them float on their own. And then even with your legs up here, try to do that little cat-cow tilt. It might barely move. But when you go towards tailbone down, it should really intensify that stretch versus when you try to pull the back flat to the floor. All right, just take one more little tilt. And then we're going to lengthen the legs all the way out to the floor. You can send them out long. Take your arms back behind you. Take a full body stretch. From your hands down to your feet. And then relax that stretch. Just let it melt onto the floor. And even though we're just getting started, notice if there's a little difference right and left through your legs, through your hips, maybe into your back. And then we'll start to bend the knees again. Bring your feet in towards you. Take just a couple rounds of normal cat-cow with both legs in their starting position. And coming towards a neutral spine. This is where we'll pick up the left leg. First, just give it a big stretch. Push up through the heel. Straighten out that leg. Maybe hold your leg. That feels good. A few ankle rotations, moving at your toes. And then again, going for that more active leg, so pushing up into the heel, keeping the leg fairly straight. Again, with a really tight hamstrings, that knee is going to need a bend, and that's okay. But working towards that cat-cow tilt, starting from that direction of the tailbone is how I like to feel it. So it might not move very much. Thinking of the tailbone, trying to turn towards the floor to get more of the stretch. And then as you go towards that low back pressing down, tailbone might lift a little bit. Usually gives a little bit of slack to that stretch. And again, we're going to pause with the tailbone drawing towards the floor, staying a little bit longer with that stretch and that awareness in the stretch. And then coming to figure 4. So take the left ankle to the right knee. You can guide the left leg, the left thigh a little bit away from you. You don't have to crank on it. Just if it naturally falls in towards you, you want to open it back out. And once again, cat-cow from here. Tailbone draws down, see where that goes. Low back presses down. Might shift where that stretch is or alleviate it a little bit. And then we'll gather in here, so you can bring your legs towards you, again, to hold them or to just let them float. And then even here, imagine you could do that cat-cow tilt, even if it moves only a millimeter in either direction. Just checking in what you feel when you try to do that movement. we'll take it apart. So you can lower your feet to the floor. Again, we'll send it all the way out long, full body stretch, front to back. And then bringing your knees in towards your belly. You can bring your arms to your legs, give yourself a little squeeze, a little hug, maybe a little sway side to side, softening across your back. And then we'll find our way up and over to all fours. So you can roll up or you can roll over and then come up, however you need to get to hands and knees. We'll be going right into some cats and cows. So go ahead and line up your limbs, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, and start in on that movement for your spine. Connecting into the breath, often we have that inhale for cow, belly sinks down, chest lifts forward, lift the head, lift the tail. The exhale is cat, rounding out the back, lower the head, lower the tail. Again, that inhale for the sway back, cow. Exhale for cat. And perhaps still a little bit of that awareness of how the pelvis is rotating above the hip joints as the legs stay still. And then finding your way just to a neutral spine for a moment, just activating a little bit more into just the center of this tabletop position. So really feeling the core come into alignment, tailbone draws back behind you, the crown of your head reaches forward, lengthen your neck. And we'll take another breath. And then let's come into child's pose. So let's take the big toes together and a little wider stance of the knees for this version of child's pose. Still working into kind of opening into the hips. You can lower your hips, lower your head. Give yourself a few moments here, just like when we first got onto our back. Just let the ground hold you. Notice if your body is resisting that at all. Sometimes that's where you find those patterns where the tension just resides. And when you're not doing anything and it's still there, it's a good spot to check in and release those pockets of tension or those layers of stress. See if child's pose can let you relax. Taking another deep full breath. And staying into that exhale, relax even further. And you can begin to rise up, coming back to all fours. You'll step your right foot back behind you. So the toes are on the ground. You can tuck the toes and push down into the bottom of the toes, maybe the ball of the foot, push back through the heel, maybe back into that stretch for the hamstrings, or maybe you feel it a little more in your calf. And then let's go ahead and pick up the foot, float it to about the height of your hip, feeling that structure again come back through the midline of the body as your leg hovers. And then we'll start to bring your knee underneath you, drawing it up towards your heart or towards your belly, and then straight back again. And as you do that, see if you can keep your spine level and centered. So sometimes we kind of do a cat back for the knee under, but see if you can stay neutral. And then see about adding a little different move for the leg. So when it comes underneath, we'll then send it out wide to the side and then swim back like you're kicking back like a frog. So sometimes feels a little funky, but going into that outer reach of the knee and then swimming it back. Take one more round. And then we'll bring that leg all the way forward. Help it up into a lunge. So you can bring your leg quite a ways forward and take both hands to the inner side of that leg. So you're not straddling your leg, but your foot is a little wider. Just starting to sink forward into the hips. Maybe even giving it a little movement front and back first. And then settling into that forward position. Just a few breaths. And then we'll come into a twist. So we'll keep the left hand on the floor. Your right hand can either just come up to your hip or we'll reach it all the way up towards the ceiling. Turning, turning, turning through the chest, through the middle of your spine, and even through your neck and head. So you could look up. And then taking that hand that's in the air, we'll reach it out overhead towards, past your ears. So reaching it past the crown of your head. And then reach it back up again, full twist. And we'll unwind. You can take your hand back down. We'll take that lunge apart, step your foot back. We'll take a little cat-cow. And then we'll find our way back to child's pose again. And if you'd like to stick with that wide knee version, feel free. Another option would keep the knees close together. So a little different feel for your pose. Give it another breath down here. Again, all the way through that exhale, long and slow. Start to help your way back up. Find your way to all fours. We'll start on the second side. First, with that leg stretch. So the left leg will step back. Put the foot on the floor so you've got something to press against. Push down through the toes, push back through the heel. Stretch out that back side of the leg. Even here, starting to feel that center line and the balance of the body. So you're not swayed one side or the other, going towards center at all times. And then as you lift the leg, we call on that strength from the center. Send it back through the leg, from the glutes, all the way through the inner thigh, through the inner calf, to the arch of your foot. All right, we'll start our movement again. Knee comes underneath, squeeze it as high as it will come under your body, and then straight back. We'll start a few rounds just on center, and again, keeping your spine as neutral as you can. So it's isolating that movement of the hip. And then when you like, you can add that outward motion. So the knee comes under first, then hike it out to the left, and push it back to straight again. Few rounds through. We're working that left hip, but often you'll feel it in the standing hip, doing all that stabilizing work. It's really strengthening there. And then finally, when you're ready, we'll take that left foot all the way forward to our lunge. And again, we'll start just on the inside edge of that lunge, so your foot might be a little wider. Make sure you've got a nice long stance between your front foot and your back knee, so you're not stuck in a really short position. And again, you might just give it a little movement within that position. See where that goes. Eventually sinking forward with the hips, staying a few breaths. We'll turn towards the left for our twist this time. So right hand to the floor, left hand again can be at the hip or reach it right up towards the ceiling. Again, feeling that turn, that rotation all the way through the ribs, through the chest, through the gaze, going up. And then left fingertips can start to reach out past your head. Just a little different feel for the shoulder. And once again, we'll sweep the arm back up towards the ceiling. Let's take it apart. Lower your hand, help your foot back behind you. This time, child's pose or downward facing dog, whatever you're feeling this day, this moment. You need a little time off the knees. Come on up to down dog. You need a little time off the wrists. Feel free to sink right down to child's pose. We'll all meet in child's pose. So if you're not there now, come down to the floor, give it another breath or two at the mat. And we'll start to find our way on up to sit. And initially from seated, you can sit anyway. Let's take a little bit for the wrists, so you can guide your hands around each other. Just a few circles in both directions. And a little bit at the shoulders. You can bring your hands to your shoulders. Guide your elbows around, big sweeping circles. Sense that in your shoulders, your upper back, your neck, wherever that goes. Again, both directions. You can let your hands rest for a moment. Coming into the neck, we'll take your right ear, start to lower it towards your right shoulder. And give your left shoulder a little movement, few circles, or a lift and lower. And then letting that shoulder lower, keeping it low. We'll take your chin down and across towards your right. And then we'll bring your right hand to the floor. Reach your left arm up and over. Big side body stretch. Starting to expand out into that side, kind of push the left side up to space. And then bringing your hand down across your lap. We'll bring your other hand behind you, so you're coming up into a twist. Big, tall twist, turn to your right. Stack up to the spine, squeeze around through it. And then as we unwind, we're going to come down. So you can walk your hands down and out to the right, kind of out at like a 45-degree angle from center. You can reach as far as your hands will let you go. And if that doesn't feel good, feel free to just stay a little closer with your hands. Let your head nod down. Otherwise, letting that come down into your back and even into your hips. We'll walk your hands towards the center, bringing them out in front of you. Again, they could stay a little closer to give a little more support, or you can walk them forward as far as you want to go. And from this forward position, imagine drawing your tailbone down towards the floor. So maybe your body is starting to kind of lean in with you. See if you can really root through the seat. And then let your body fold from there. You can then walk yourself on up, find yourself up tall. If you need to switch the position of your legs, go ahead and change it up however it needs to be. We'll start again with the neck. So your head tilts to your left. And the right shoulder can move a little bit at first. Eventually let the right shoulder drop down. And then we'll turn the chin down. Slowly rotate to look down to the left. And then place your left hand on the ground. Reach the right arm up and over, big side stretch. Leaning up and into it. So not leaning over towards that arm so much, towards the floor, but pushing and puffing out through that right side. Coming from our side bend to our twist. So right hand comes across, left hand comes behind. Make sure you take the bend out so you're not collapsed in that twist, but it's really tall. And it comes all the way up through the head, through your gaze even. And then again, as we unwind, we'll be coming down and out to the sides. You can walk your hands out to the left and soften into that fold. And then hands towards center once again, just like last time. Taking that forward fold. Coming back through the midline, coming back into balance. And then we'll start to rise on up. Once again, finding your way up tall. This time you can bring your legs straight out in front of you. Give yourself a little shake through the knees, stretch out through the legs, and then pressing your hands down at your sides, coming into staff pose. It's a nice tall posture. And then a little bit more into the hips from seated position, and I'll give a few options because this posture doesn't always work with everyone's body, with everyone's legs. So going towards, sometimes it's called shoelace pose, and sometimes it's called cow face pose. I don't think it looks like a shoelace or a cow face, maybe a shoelace. So taking your right leg, it would be underneath you, so it's, or bent in front of you. So your foot is coming back by your seat. And then your, did I just say right leg? The right leg is underneath and the left leg would be up on top. And so sometimes we get there from this position, and that might be familiar from like a twist, if you're going to twist to the right. And we're not going to twist, but we're going to see if we can nudge that foot a little further back. So it might not go, and if it doesn't, that's okay. You can stay with your foot flat and your knee up. If that foot will gently get nudged back and your knees start to come a little closer together, you start to stack the legs on top of each other. So again, if that doesn't work, don't force it. If you're really lopsided because we're tight here and we can't get that hip towards the floor, then you might need to go backwards a little bit. And if even this feels like very complicated and uncomfortable, feel free to go to a more open cross-leg position. All of those will work. So from whatever position you've got, try to start with a really tall spine. Bring it up as tall as you can, and we'll connect back into that cat-cow movement just down at the pelvis. So thinking of that cow, tailbone pointing back, it might bring your belly forward. You'll kind of lean forward and upward. And then the cat back is more of this rounded back. You're kind of getting sunk underneath. The tailbone comes forward underneath you. So if you need a side view, that cow is kind of leaning forward, kind of pushing forward through the low back, lifting up through the heart. And then the cat will get rolled underneath, swooping through. And so for many of those postures with the legs, that's going to come into the hips at different angles. And really you might feel it both ways. There's something going on at cat. There's something else going on at cow. When the hips are really tight, you'll feel it all over. And then when you're ready, we'll find our way just to neutral spine, just a tall, level spine. That right foot can again be in either position, flat on the, or left foot flat on the floor, or still tucked. But we'll now take that twist to the left. You can start to turn to the left, lifting up tall. And even if you're in normal cross-legged position, taking that twist. Giving it another breath. And we'll unwind. We'll take it apart. Again, just let your legs shake out a little bit. Release. We'll be going right into the second side. So the left leg will be tucked under. So you can set that one first, bringing your foot underneath your other leg, kind of sitting back by your seat. And then the right leg comes on top. And again, it might be starting with your foot on the floor next to your leg, or you can start to nudge it backwards. Comes over by the other side of your seat. If that works, either of those, and then just making sure that you can kind of lean back down into that right side. So we start to come towards level. And feel free to back it up if that's feeling too tight today. Again, you can back it all the way up to cross legs. Always an option. All right, so again, we'll do our cat-cow from that position. So once you've got where your legs can be all wrapped up somehow, thinking of that cow, bringing the belly forward, tailbone starts to lean back behind you, or point back behind you. And then the cat. That slumped spine, tailbone rolls underneath, pointing forward as you roll your back. And then again, that cow, tailbone back, belly forward, maybe the heart lifts a little. And the cat. And if that movement itself is just too much, feel free to do it very tiny, just a little sway back and forth, or even just in stillness. Give it another breath. We'll be finding our way just to tall posture. And we'll be moving into our twist. So again, you can always back up the legs. If you have them really tightly crossed, you could go to foot flat. We'll turn to the right. Bring your right hand behind you. Use your left hand however it works to help find that twist. Again, a tall twist. Ground it through your seat and lift it up to the crown of your head. We'll take one more full breath and unwind. And take that apart. You might have to help it apart. Send your legs out long one more time, that little shake, that little stretch. This time another full staff pose so you can ground your hands, lift the head, lift the toes. And then let's bring this shape down onto your back. We're going to flip it down. So coming from your L posture from seated to that L posture on your back. When you get there, you can always hold your legs a little more support. You can take your hands to the floor, or you could nudge your hands under your seat for a little extra support as well. Just taking those legs up, pushing up to the heels, big stretch down to the hamstrings. And then we'll gather the knees in towards your belly. Give them a little squeeze, a little hug. This time, guide your knees around a big, slow circle. As big and slow as you can make it. Maybe even slower than you're going right now. And at some point, turn that circle around the second direction. And often when we change directions, it speeds up a little. So again, slow it down. Even slower. And then we'll take that right knee in towards you and let the left leg come to the floor. You can slide that foot all the way out so the leg goes straight and squeeze the right knee in pretty close. We'll move this into a twist. So with your right hand out to the ground, guide your knee with your left hand, bring it towards the left. Let your right hip come up and over with you. See where that goes. Often you'll feel that in that hip, the outer thigh. Maybe you've got it coming up through your back, through your shoulder. It's all part of the twist. Give it another full breath in. And stay for that exhale. And then ease it apart. As you come apart, we're going to take a bridge before the second side. So bring both of your feet in nearby. Toes pointing straight ahead, arms down at your sides, and the fingers pointing straight ahead towards your toes. We'll lift the hips, using the strength of the legs, feeling the tops of the legs lengthen out, lengthening to the front of the hips. Breathe into that shape. And we'll release back down. Bringing the left knee in towards you this time, and then the right leg, setting it out long, flat to the floor. You can bring your left knee in for a little hug, and then guide it to the right. So the left arm can be all the way out of the floor. And then the right hand guides your knee across to the side. And just go wherever you can go. For some of you might be almost at the floor. Others, maybe just a few inches to the right, right up above. Go to a place where you can breathe, where you can connect to your body. And again, stay for that whole breath, the whole thing coming in, the whole breath coming out. We'll unwind, and again, take bridge. So help your feet in nearby, arms down to your side, ground your feet and lift. Really strong legs do that lift. So the spine almost feels effortless. A little bit of help from the core, from the back, from the belly. But the legs, really the powerhouse. And we'll take another deep breath in your bridge. And then ease it on down. And then let's come back to our windshield wiper legs. So feet wider, arms wider if you like. Knees travel side to side. Again, your head could travel side to side as well. Take what feels good. Listen to your body. If you need to stop somewhere, give it an extra stretch. And then continue. And eventually arriving at center, making sure that you are centered all the way down the spine, even lifting your hips to set them down a little further out. And then coming into either a butterfly pose for just a little bit more at the hips, feet together, knees wide. If the hips have had enough, we're just going to invert that. So feet will come wide and the knees touch at the top. So butterfly or backward butterfly. Let your hands rest somewhere. Let your body rest in this position. Breathe into it. Allow your breath to become the only thing. Feel everything about it. Notice the air that moves through your nose. Even feel the air just outside of your nose. Is it just a little bit warmer as the air comes out? Perhaps just a bit cooler when you breathe in. Where do you feel the breath moving in your body? Can you feel it in your throat? Can you imagine it in your lungs? And really sensing that expansion and compression of the whole body, breathing. Perhaps imagining every cell breathing, every cell in the body taking that oxygen of your breath. Releasing the carbon dioxide. And give it one more deep, full breath. From wherever your legs may be, we'll start to gather them in, all the way in towards the belly. Another little squeeze, little hug. From there, all the way out long, the full body stretch. Reach your arms back, lengthen your legs out. Full stretch. And then we'll move to our final relaxation. Take whatever you need to be comfortable, whatever you might have that helps you get comfortable. Again, make sure to center yourself. Relax your body into that balanced state. And as we settle into this Shavasana, Giving yourself that time to relax in whatever shape your body finds on the floor. Feeling yourself arrive in that stillness. All the muscles slowing into that position. The bones taking rest. And even imagining all those little cells taking a moment to relax. Let yourself rest here. Can you let yourself relax just a little bit longer? Beginning to once again feel your breath. Feeling that exhale continue to be that relaxing, calming presence in the body. Like a big sigh coming out. And then begin to feel the inhale carrying a little more energy. Lighting up with that breath coming in. Send that energy to your hands, to your feet. You can move fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. And then as you're ready, we'll gather in one more time, bringing your knees in towards you. In your own time, just rolling over, curling up on one side, just pausing on your side, on the ground, let everything go again. And then begin to find your way back up to seated. Help yourself up to a nice tall posture. And getting into that seat, relaxing there. We'll close our practice with a moment of gratitude today. So just thinking of something that gives you joy today. Could be as easy as a little bit of sunshine. Could be anything at all that comes to mind. Allow yourself to sit in that gratitude, to breathe with it. We'll close with 3 breaths together. You can bring your hands together at your heart. We'll take a deep breath in and a slow breath out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Namaste.